Yeah, it started, so you can kick us off anytime you want.
Okay. Oh, great. Welcome, Rafael. And for the people who are watching this, welcome. Just a short introduction. I've met Rafael during the mastermind, which is created by Joseph Rodriguez. I came across one of Joseph's his content through reading on the course of Paramahansa Yogananda, Autobiography of a Yogi. And then I discovered that he also has different programs based on entrepreneurship. And when I entered the mastermind, quite immediately Raphael came there to help me, and we had a conversation. He gave me some tips about acquisition, and we had such a nice conversation. Like we already knew each other for a really long time. It was so
Yeah,
special, even though you live on the other side of the world in
yeah,
Canada. And we had just a conversation, right, about different topics, about spirituality, about religion, about presence, about entrepreneurship. So yeah, I was really inspired to just start an online conversation, to see where it leads. Maybe other people also will get inspired. So
yeah, certainly.
thank you so much for your presence, Rafael. And yeah, maybe you can introduce yourself also a bit, and then I will also share a bit about myself.
For sure, yeah. So my name is Rafael. I'm from Quebec, in Canada, and I prof professionally I'm a realtor. I've been a realtor for 2 years and a half, and yeah, I found Joseph's group probably 2 years ago or something, around 2 years ago, maybe a little bit less, and it's been a wild adventure ever since. Really, I found like I feel like I really found a tribe there. People that have the same priority, namely to intentionally live your life to the fullest and uh, be very mindful about how you are and I guess what you bring to the world. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to have those conversations as always, and I'm really glad that you invited me for a recorded conversation. That's gonna be fun.
Right, right. Thank you so much. Yeah, I totally relate. Like you talk about the tribe. I feel like this is really also an authentic way of living, like interconnectivity based on values and truths,
Right.
which really like connected. And that's also what I feel within this group. It's also really based on flow, and
It's
it's
very
also
holistic. Like it
it's
touches all areas of your life, right? Because it's a way of being. So you don't, it's not like just during meditation or just during your professional life or just during your personal life. That's really
yes,
something I like about it.
yes, I agree. It's special also because you can do a meditation, have like a really strong connection. But then if we are busy, we are doing our activities, maybe we get triggered. And this group also
Mhm.
really helps by relating it to specific teachings like on Taoism, like the way of flow,
Right.
Neville Goddard. And I thought maybe you can share a bit about your perspective and experience with Neville Goddard, because I'm not so much experienced with that. I
Yeah.
did have a dream recently of him, like a vision. So that's like really interesting,
Nice.
but I did not really study him that much. I recently
Mhm.
looked up on his teacher, Abdullah, and
Yeah.
he's supposed to be from Ethiopia, and he was like a Kabbalist and yeah, really powerful teacher. And yeah, so go ahead, bro.
Yeah. This is interesting because that's one of the things that I picked up on when you did your intro. You said that you sort of came into the sphere of Joseph's work through um, Yogi Yogananda.
Yeah,
And that's very interesting because for me, it was a different door, right? For me, it was more Neville, but I didn't really know Neville at first. And still, I have not yet very much explored Yogi Yogananda and that side of uh, I guess, of the portrait or the image. But so I'm really curious. I'll be curious to hear more about that if you're open to this. But yeah, through how I discovered Joseph was, I think I was attracted by one of the thumbnails. He has very colorful thumbnails with sometimes like religious figures, or it's very cartoonish and all that stuff. And I don't know, it just called me. I watched the video and it was complete. It was like Chinese to me, right? I didn't understand anything. What is he talking about? Right? And it felt very alien, very foreign. And for some reason, I guess I was inspired to, because I was interested, right? I heard some certain words, certain ideas, uh, certain suggestions, and I could feel that there was this this ease about him, about Joseph, the way he communicates things, but also just the way he carries himself and who he is. And I think that ease was very magnetic for me. And yet he didn't seem to disengage or run away from the world. And what I mean by that very specifically is that um, usually you can hope to find either a business coach or a spiritual guide, but generally the spiritual guide is sort of withdrawn from the world, and the business coach oftentimes doesn't have any spiritual life, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's one thing that really appealed to me, is that I could see that intuitively I could feel that he was spiritually very advanced. Um, and I was very curious about that. I've always been. But I could also see that he was engaging with the world, and he didn't reject, let's say, like living a socially integrated life in like normal urban society, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I don't necessarily want to become a hermit and go to the woods. Maybe when I'm
Right.
70 or something, like I do enjoy being alone.
Yeah.
But I do want to live a full life and engage with the world and be a part of it.
Right.
So yeah, that was very interesting. And then more and more I became aware, and I could understand more the terms that he was saying just through, because I was leaving the videos just as background noise in my apartment, right? Um, and eventually I got to listen more because I could understand a little bit more. And Neville Goddard was definitely the, like, probably what spoke to me the most at first. Um, Certainly in great part because he speaks a lot in biblical terms, and he will start with an excerpt from the Bible and then use it to illustrate a point, right? Uh,
Right.
and in the
And if I
past,
may, I'm sorry for interrupting
yeah,
you.
no,
If I
no, go
may,
ahead.
last week there was a friend at my place, and he coincidentally came with a book of Neville Goddard with these quotations of the Bible, and I never saw his books. And then my friend, he explained that he liked the book when I asked him, but he didn't like the reference to the Bible. So
Interesting,
now,
yes.
yeah, so now I would like to hear your perspective and why
Because
you
for me,
have
it's
this.
always the opposite.
Yes, but
Um,
why? Like,
my the start of my interest with the Bible and religious texts uh, can very much be traced back to Jordan Peterson and his biblical lectures. He did. I don't know if you've seen it, but he did an excellent series on Genesis where he was explaining. Uh, he basically went sentence by sentence through the book of Genesis and was explaining his point of view on the text, right?
Mhm.
And at that time, it was sort of an awakening for me in the sense that or contributed to an awakening in the sense that as I was growing up, I saw the Bible as a very archaic um, book of it wasn't knowledge to me. It was simply the idiotic rambling of naive humans, right?
I know what you
I'll be
mean.
honest, like growing up, this is how I saw this.
And I think a
And
lot of
yeah,
people relate
yeah, of
towards
course.
it like that because it's not really, it doesn't make sense in our culture. We don't get the metaphysical teachings of it, right? It's just like the
Exactly.
direct raw text, and that's not what is meant by these deeper truths, right?
And you can still see a lot of people that are fervent believers trying to argue from a very first degree and historical standpoint about the
Yes.
Bible. Right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm not like, I think it is rooted in history. I think most of the figures it mentions are definitely people that have been around. I'm not so sure that all of the events that are reported happened in a way that we would today qualify as objective or real, right?
yes.
I think it would be sort of a waste of paper uh, to focus on the historical accuracy when really you're writing a book that is about spiritual salvation. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
recounting anecdotes is not the point of that book, if you see what I mean.
Yes.
Like the teaching that is behind the anecdotes, that is the point of the book. Right?
Yeah.
But we do live
Right.
in a society that's very obsessed with the first degree, and um, we sort of think that there is no form of understanding except for rational understanding. And I think that's part of the, well, I would wager that that's probably what interests you in spiritual pursuits is that there spiritual pursuits recognize that there is something more to be known. There is something more that is real and understandable than what is rational, right?
Right. Right. And I think that's really important point because when you receive the knowledge of example any scripture, it's not like a rational thing. It's like you have like a sentence like the finger which is pointing towards the moon. That's like
Mhm.
a really beautiful example. Like it's not the finger which points to the moon, it's actually the moon itself. So that's like the light which radiates from the moon, but you
Mhm.
have to perceive that yourself. You cannot depend upon the person pointing with the finger, because if you are going to look at the finger, you will not see the moon. You will not see
Yeah.
her light. You will not feel its radiance. And in a way, like the teachings, it's like symbolically. And that's also what I like about Joseph Rodriguez, because he is also integrating a program. It's called the subconscious mind program. And in every mystery tradition, you have like this symbolic language. How do you perceive that? For example, you have Carl Jung, like in the dreams, it's always also in symbolic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's super interesting that you talk about this because this is one of the favorite subjects I think of Jordan Peterson. I was just talking about Jordan Peterson, his explanation of the Bible, but his first book uh, is called, wait, what is it called? I forgot.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Wait, I gotta remember because he wrote the book that he's most known for is 12 Rules for Life. But before that, he wrote a book that's very academic, and it's about symbols and uh, myth and that sort of stuff. Like, books, maps of meaning. Yeah. But it's a very interesting book because it's all about the symbology, the meanings, like behind that, and allegories, metaphors, and really, because he's a psychologist, right? So he talks about,
Yeah.
he's interested by the fact that, as you say, a lot of the symbols, they will repeat themselves or be very similar from culture to culture, and sometimes in cultures that are, as far as we know, completely separate. That I've never had any contact.
Yes, exactly.
So his hypothesis is that it reveals some underarching patterns in our psyche.
Yeah.
So he thinks that's
Collective consciousness, right?
so, and exactly that. There's two paths. Either it means that it's uh biological, like in our DNA or something, like those symbols are literally physically in our DNA,
Mhm.
which still wouldn't exclude some form of collective consciousness or collective memory, or it's uh those symbols are coherent with the most basic fabric of reality. And so we naturally discover them psychologically or spiritually because they tell you something about the fabric of reality, right?
Yeah.
Um, or like you say, straight up, like collective memory or consciousness, that's even more intangible than the few things that I mentioned. Some people will also take that to be an indication that there's probably like a very ancient civilization that predates all the civilizations that we know of, and that is like a common source to all of the cultures that we have today. Um, so yeah, there's many ways to interpret that, but at the end of the day, it is very interesting that through cultures we have so many symbols. Right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree, and that is some really important consideration that when you look at ancient cultures, different scriptures, um, different traditions, they point towards the same and in another way or in another language, other
Mhm.
symbol, different
Yeah.
practices. But from my own experience, they not only are complementary, they are also, how I perceive it, like different aspects of a map, like a mapping
Mhm.
of our consciousness, like a mapping or discovering of who we really are as a human being, as a spiritual being.
Yeah.
And it's like these times they reveal a lot, because normally, like for example, 50 years ago, maybe even 30 years ago, it was much more difficult to enter these different
Mhm.
traditions or to get knowledge. But now, with the internet, we have entered the information age, and there's so much information available, which can also
Mhm.
be obstacle, right? You really have to use your intuition to decide, okay,
Yeah.
this is something which really resonates with me, and I can validate it from within,
Mhm.
and other stuff maybe not so. And that is how I did it in my beginning of my spiritual journey. And maybe you can also talk a bit about Neville Goddard, what
Right.
you, yeah,
True.
what you have got from Neville Goddard's teachings, because it's really like, which I learned is from the I am perspective, right?
Yeah.
Neville
Right.
Goddard's teaching.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for giving me that
what I knew
directive.
before was also like different masters, like Saint-Germain.
Mhm.
He also has the I am, as a matter of fact,
Okay, I
but
didn't know
it's
that.
more from a transmutative
Mhm.
way of transmuting, also with the violet flame. So maybe you can explain a bit about your
Yeah.
experience and knowledge. Thank you.
So since we're already relating it with the Bible, I'll say maybe one of the things that is uh, the hardest maybe to sort of wrestle with the word is that it can seem almost satanic um, at the first approach, the sense that he, when he talks about the psychological drama and the Father, the Son, and all that stuff, he, he explains that God is not outside of yourself. If we're always looking for external salvation and then external God and source of ability, external source, that is a mistake, right? And he talks about, well, Yahweh, uh, which is the name of God, YHWH, and he explains it in a way that is very much personal. So um, there is the desire that is the word of God that comes to you. It doesn't, it's sort of a gift, right? You're not exactly generating a thought. Right? Where does it come from? It's a little bit mysterious. A thought or a desire. And you are the person that nourishes thought or that desire. So you are the fertile ground in which that thought is planted. So that's the H. Um, or the Virgin Mary. It's the feminine aspect of spiritual life. Receiving that thought, being the fertile ground for the thought. And then you express that thought. And that expression is theoretically Christ, right? Because you have the pure and noble desire from God. You are the fertile ground and the Cathedrals, and the fruits it gives are the true and perfect fruits of God, which is Christ. Right? But there's
Wow.
something very, when he starts talking about um, God is I am, and God is I am that I am. They say that in the Bibles. I am that I am. And they say that that is essentially God, the name of God. And then when Neville starts speaking about, he tells you to know that I am that I am, and that that is God. Right? It feels almost blasphemous. It's like wild, you know. You're like, well, I saying that I am God. Well, I am is God. So to say I am God cannot be sinful because that's almost saying I am, right? But that is the name of God. So does that make me God? At first, it's a very strange and I would argue almost dangerous place to kind of feel your way through. Um, it becomes much more coherent once you add different angles. For example, this sentence, me and my father are one, but my father is greater than I, which means, in a way, yes, I am God or I am of God. Um, but God is my father and God is greater than I. So I may be, we could conceptualize like I may be part of God, but I am not all of God. It's not as if God is restrained to my being. You know what I mean? That would be ridiculous. But yeah, once again, all of those ideas that are not from the rational realm, there's a lot of rational contradictions in them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the studio is a bit lacking. You're
Yeah,
still
right.
there? Ah. Yeah, I totally agree. Like it seems like the way it has been interpreted and taught towards humanity, it's the other way around. Like how you
Mhm.
explain it now, it's really from a way of within our own consciousness. Like God is really closer, the closest as we ever have could imagine. It's literally
Mhm.
like I am that I am. So it's like the fundament of who we are is God. So that
Yeah.
means like it's like always with us. We don't need to do anything. It's just being.
Mhm.
And from that way, we realize that we are already in touch with the divine and the sacred, and it's really also down to earth. What I also like what you explained about the biblical references is that there is a mystical aspect about this reality, because when we always approach reality from a rational point of
Mhm.
view, um, we have like such a limited amount of experience of what is really life.
Yeah.
um, and I really feel like this is some kind of yeah, you can almost call it a condition which we are in for a long time. And I feel science, especially modern science, has empowered this way of
Mhm.
approaching life, and it has divided religion also
Yeah.
from itself. Whereas in the ancient ways, science and religion were once
Yeah.
a link, where philosophy was a bridge towards these two aspects, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, they also in like these, you have like one script, like a sacred text. It's called the Metu Nature, the Metu Nature.
Okay.
It's from ancient Kemet. It's called Egypt
Egypt.
nowadays.
Yeah.
Yes, but the original name is Kemet, which means the
Mhm.
Black Land. And the
Mhm.
Metu Nature literally means um, the scriptures of the natures, because the natures there, the word nature comes from nature,
Wow.
and natures are divine beings. They are manifestations or archetypes which are being considered the original um, teachers of humanity,
Mm.
as you can see, and that these beings, these gods, were once walking the earth. Personally, I don't believe they were physically walking the earth. I
Mhm.
personally believe that we as human beings, before we were so much into material existence, so much condensed in like the more condensed vibration of matter, like with using a ratio, that it was more etherical or spiritual, right? Then that's
Mhm.
also our heritage, who we really are. Like we have like, okay, we live on earth, we have our physical body, but
Yeah.
we have an origin, we have a heritage, which is from more kind of spiritual
Mhm.
inheritance, right? How do you relate towards that?
In multiple ways.
Yeah,
Definitely, I think I'll bring up this like you know about ley lines, right?
yeah, for
So
sure. I work a lot
yeah,
with them. Yeah.
okay. That's then you'll probably teach me something because I'm super curious about them. So like when I first was sort of introduced to that concept, I I got a I'm a little bit obsessive. I have an obsessive personality. So like sometimes I'll turn into a subject and like get completely obsessed with it.
Nice.
Uh
Okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
If you can
And
manage it, it's nice. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. It's a double-edged sword
Right.
because oftentimes it will go hand in hand with addictive personalities. So it's very easy for me to get addicted to different things. Um, but it's also very easy for me to get very interested in different subjects, right? So it's a blessing and a curse, as everything is. Um, but yeah, so Oh yeah, ley lines. So I got a little bit obsessed at some point with megastructures, right? Like the pyramids,
Yes.
structures in South America and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Uh, and then and like Stonehenge and all that stuff. And then you figure out that they're all placed along, like if you draw lines between them, like they line up very well, and then we call it ley lines. And then you start trying to figure out what are the lines and who drew them and like what's the source of that? Like why are they there? Why did people build along them? And now we know that they're ley lines because of the building,
Right.
right? But from what I can understand, uh, there are obviously different theories because we don't know because we weren't there. But it seems like at least some people, if not most people, simply knew the ley lines were there because they could fence them in a way. Uh, so I think, as with a lot of things, we can develop sensibilities and we can lose sensibilities. For
Okay.
example, I was just when I was driving up here earlier, I was listening to Rolo May's "Man Search for Himself," yeah, and not to be confused with some other guy's "Man Search for Meaning." So, and in that book, he he talks about the fact that for a lot of people, the first time that you ask them, "What do you really desire? What do you want?" they don't know. They'll tell you things that they've learned they should want. For example, yeah, I want to be successful in life. Um, what does that mean for you? I want to have a family. I'll go very stereotypical here, but like, I want to have a, I want to be a doctor. I want to have a family with 2 cars, one
Right.
dog, 3 kids, and a beautiful wife who loves me. Uh, and those can all be genuine desires, but for most people, they're not. They're learned desires. Like I know that I should want that, and therefore, but genuinely, you do feel like you want it, right? So it's a strange thing. Uh, I found myself in that situation when I first joined Joseph's group. Uh, we would talk about like true, genuine desires. You know, Joseph often says, uh, "I wouldn't recommend that, but if you genuinely desire to do so, then I would recommend." Right? For example. So genuine desire often comes back to that. Anyway, so I realized because I was questioning myself, what is my genuine desire? I realized I couldn't I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell you what my genuine desire is, right?
Okay.
And I I feel a little bit of distress, right? Because I was like, this is really weird. Like you're supposed to just know what you want. You know what I mean? Like it's weird that I don't know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
want. And
yeah,
I'm like asking myself, what do I want? And it's just completely blank. Like I'm meditating in my mind, nothing's happening, right?
yeah, yeah.
So it was actually some comfort in hearing that in the book earlier, where it was like, oh, a lot of people actually experience that. Because when I told Joseph, I feel like I don't know what I want. Like I've asked myself that question seriously now, and I don't have an answer.
Okay.
And he didn't really answer that. I don't think he could relate all that much, maybe. Um, and I think that's part of mastery sometimes. Like when you master something, after a while, you almost forget how it is to be in that position, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Right. So sometimes it's better to have a master that's like 2 steps ahead of you rather than 20, if you know what I mean. You
Yeah,
can learn a lot from the guy that's 20 steps ahead of you, but sometimes the guy that's only 2 steps ahead of you has better answers for you because he knows exactly what.
Right. That's such a
Right.
beautiful explanation. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, Rolo may men search for himself. You were asking me about unlost enable.
Yeah, so I was asking you how you relate about our spiritual heritage and how this all relates towards the modern way of life where science and the ratio has such a dominant
Right. Yeah. So
impact, right? But
re
I really like your explanation. I think you really answered
yeah.
it, that you're basically your authentic inherent desire
Mhm.
was kind of conditioned in
Yeah.
a picture how you took that, because it's like you were being conditioned with your bringing up within society, like what you supposed to like, how you're supposed to live, and then
Yeah.
you think, okay, that's who I am, I want to live like that. Man,
Hmm.
that's such a
I think
powerful example, because that's like
not
one
only
really
that,
big thing about our society, that a lot of people that lost their
100%.
contact with who am I,
Yeah.
why am I here, what am I here to do. People
Yeah.
just function in a way that I think because they really want it, but it's actually not true. It's the way they're being programmed. That's
Yep.
not why we are here, or what's the whole
And I
purpose
think
of
that's
life,
double
right?
because you're programmed to want something, but you're also programmed to ignore the voice that tells you what you really want, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's why I was
Right.
so much into the habit of ignoring that voice that now I couldn't hear it anymore, even if I wanted to. Right? And it would have been very easy for me to think at that moment that voice doesn't exist. It never existed. I would make it a fake memory, if you know what I mean. And that's where having a good community helps you. When you can see other people that kind of and they they do have a relationship with it. And then you have the faith and the courage to keep going forward and to keep listening until you hear a faint voice and until it becomes louder and louder and louder. Right.
Yeah, man.
There's a lot of things because we were talking about ley lines. I think there are a lot of things that we forgot to pay attention, how to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Uh, there's subtle things, less rational, less objective, subtle forms of energy, subjective energy.
Right.
Because I definitely do believe that some people could like, it was like obvious. If you would ask someone like, oh yeah, why is it there? They'd be like, well, it's obvious because it's like, it's a super spiritual spot. Like all the energy is pulling there, but it's just, you could sense it, right? As we can see easily, people could sense it, before they were more in tune with us.
Yeah, but we can also still sense it. Like I give sound healing
Oh yeah.
each month in the church, which is specifically on a ley line. And I
Mhm.
also went recently to a cathedral to make a video about the ancient integration of cathedrals, that they are actually healing centers, which they
Mhm.
integrate sound, light, and
Yes.
vibration. These three principles, right? And for me, example, when I go into this cathedral or just this church and I get my sound healing, I really notice the difference, because it's something which really, personally, I feel it's assisting us. It's assisting
Mhm.
us in connecting with who we really are. And that's something you just have to feel and to discover for yourself.
Mhm.
But it's really assisting you, this
Yes.
energy.